The Rookie is full of funny moments, but there are also a lot of sad ones. So I'll be going over every sad death in The Rookie, starting with one of the most devastating losses that changed the show forever. Season 1, Episode 16, Greenlight. A mid-season episode that forever altered the trajectory of The Rookie. What makes Captain Zoe Anderson's death so uniquely devastating isn't just that we lost a compelling character. It's how the show built a false sense of security before ripping it away. For 15 episodes, we watched Captain Anderson mentor John Nolan. She saw potential in him when others didn't. She defended his place in the program despite his age. She became the steady hand guiding not just Nolan, but all the rookies through their tumultuous first year. The episode begins like many others. Nolan and the team are working to stop a kidnapping ring led by Cole Midas. There's tension, sure, but nothing suggests we're about to witness one of the most shocking deaths in the series. That's what makes it brilliant television, and absolutely heartbreaking. When Anderson and Nolan track the kidnappers to a house with a pool, everything happens in a flash. Anderson attempts to overpower one of the captors. Shots are fired. She falls into the pool, and suddenly, we're watching Nolan desperately performing CPR, begging his captain to stay with him. But she doesn't. Despite Nolan's efforts, despite our hopes as viewers, Captain Anderson dies. No heroic last-minute save, no miracle recovery, just the brutal reality of police work. Sometimes people don't make it home. What makes this death particularly impactful is how it was filmed. The camera lingers on Nolan's desperate attempts at resuscitation. We feel his panic, his refusal to accept what's happening. Then comes the moment of realization: she's gone. The quiet that follows is deafening. The aftermath is equally powerful. The precinct's reaction shows how deeply Anderson was respected. Tim Bradford, usually stoic and unshakable, visibly struggles. Sergeant Gray, who often butted heads with Anderson, is clearly devastated by the loss of his colleague. For Nolan, it's a turning point. He witnessed his mentor's death up close. He tried and failed to save her. The weight of that experience fundamentally changes him. His idealism doesn't vanish, but it's tempered by a new understanding of what the badge truly costs. Greenlight earned a 9.0 rating on IMDb, the highest of any episode in the series at that point. Viewers were stunned, heartbroken, and completely invested. The show took a risk by killing off a major character mid-season, and it paid off by demonstrating that in this show, no one is safe. In January 2023, the loss of Captain Anderson took on another layer of sadness when actress Annie Wershing passed away. The show paid tribute to her in Season 5, reminding viewers of the lasting impact both the character and the actress had on the rookie's legacy. Jackson West. If Captain Anderson's death was shocking because we saw it in front of our eyes, Jackson West's death in the Season 4 premiere was devastating for the opposite reason. We never actually saw it happen. Jackson West, played by Titus Macon Jr., had grown from an uncertain rookie to a confident officer with strong principles. His journey resonated with viewers as he found his voice, stood up against corruption, and formed deep bonds with his fellow officers, especially Lucy Chen. What makes Jackson's death particularly heartbreaking is how it was handled. When Season 4 began, fans expected to see all their favorite characters return. Instead, we were shown CCTV footage of Jackson being kidnapped by La Fiera's gang. We never see the moment of his death, only the aftermath when Angelo Lopez learns that DNA from his fingernails identified his killer, a 17-year-old gang member. This off-screen death left many viewers feeling robbed of closure. There was no heroic last stand, no emotional goodbye, no chance to process what was happening. Jackson was simply gone. his story cut short without warning. The impact on the other characters was profound. Angela Lopez, who was kidnapped in the same operation that killed Jackson, named her son after him, a touching tribute to her fallen colleague. Lucy Chin lost her closest friend on the force, the person who understood her struggles and celebrated her victories. For many fans, Jackson's death remains controversial. Some feel the character deserved a more dignified end, one that honored his growth and contributions to the show. Others appreciate the stark reality it represents. Sometimes in police work, there are no dramatic last moments, just the sudden absence of someone who mattered. What's undeniable is the emotional aftermath. The grief feels genuine. Tim Bradford, who mentored Jackson, shows rare vulnerability. Sergeant Gray, who saw Jackson's potential from the beginning, carries the weight of losing an officer under his command. Jackson's legacy lives on in subtle ways throughout the series. His name is mentioned with respect. His absence is felt in group scenes. And most significantly, baby Jackson Lopez carries his name forward, ensuring that even in death, Officer West continues to be part of the rookie's world. Evelyn Nolan. Some deaths hit hard, not because we knew the character well, but because of how they affect those we care about. Evelyn Nolan's death in Season 5, Episode 14, Death Sentence, falls squarely into this category. John Nolan's mother was never a major character on the show. We knew little about her beyond the basics of her relationship with John. But when Nolan receives the call that his mother has died of a heart attack, the impact is immediate and powerful.
My mom died.
What makes this death particularly complex is what Nolan learns afterward. His mother wasn't who he thought she was. She had secrets, big ones. She was a heroin-dealing con artist who left a trail of destruction in her wake. This revelation forces Nolan to reevaluate not just his relationship with his mother, but his understanding of his entire childhood. The grief Nolan experiences is actually really complicated. How do you feel pain for someone when you're simultaneously learning they weren't who you thought they were? How do you reconcile the mother you loved with the criminal she turned out to be? Nathan Fillion's performance in these scenes is subtly heartbreaking. He portrays Nolan's confusion and pain with restraint, showing us a man trying to process too many emotions at once. There's grief for his loss, anger at the deception, and guilt that he never truly knew his own mother. The cremation scene is particularly sad. There's no elaborate funeral, no gathering of family or friends, just Nolan, alone with his mother's remains, trying to make sense of a relationship that now feels like it was built on sand. For Nolan, his mother's death becomes a reason for self-reflection, forcing him to question how much of himself was shaped by lies. In a show that often deals with dramatic, violent deaths, Evelyn Nolan's passing stands out for its quieter, more existential impact. Malvado. Some deaths in The Rookie matter not for who died, but for what the death reveals about our main characters. The recent death of Malvado in Season 7, Episode 14 perfectly illustrates this principle. Malvado's death is totally tied to Bailey Noon's trauma and her ex-husband Jason's murder. What makes this death significant isn't our attachment to Malvado as a character, but how it forces Bailey to confront her unresolved trauma from past abuse. As showrunner Alexi Hawley explained, Malvado's death was about Bailey's trauma, not her direct actions. This death serves as a mirror, reflecting Bailey's complicated history and the emotional scars she carries. Bailey, who has survived abuse, reacts to threats through that lens. Her actions regarding Malvado aren't simply about the immediate situation. They're informed by years of fear and survival instincts. What makes this death particularly impactful is how it affects Bailey's relationship with Nolan. He sees a side of her he hadn't fully understood before, Their partnership is tested not by external threats, but by the revelation of how deeply Bailey's past continues to influence her present. In a series that often deals with black and white morality in police work, Malvado's death introduces shades of gray. It challenges both characters and viewers to consider how past experiences shape present actions and whether justice and healing can coexist. Armstrong's betrayal and death. Some deaths hurt not just because we lose a character, but because that loss represents the shattering of trust. Nick Armstrong's betrayal and subsequent death embody this particular kind of heartbreak. When we first meet Armstrong, he's everything Nolan aspires to be: experienced, respected, and seemingly principled. He takes Nolan under his wing, offering guidance and friendship when Nolan needs it most. Their relationship becomes one of the show's most positive dynamics. That's what makes Armstrong's revelation as a corrupt cop so devastating. It's not just the betrayal of the badge, it's the personal betrayal of Nolan's trust.
But I killed you in self-defense.
The confrontation between Armstrong and Nolan crackles with emotional intensity. Armstrong tries to justify his actions, explaining how he started with small compromises that eventually led him down a path that he couldn't escape. Armstrong's death comes as he and Nolan struggle over a gun. It's quick, chaotic, and lacks the dignity one might expect for a character who once commanded respect. The aftermath forces Nolan to question his own judgment. If he could be so wrong about Armstrong, who else might he be misjudging? This death creates ripples of doubt that affect Nolan's relationships with other mentors and authority figures going forward. It's a cautionary tale that resonates throughout the series, reminding both characters and viewers that integrity requires constant vigilance. La Fiera. Not all impactful deaths in The Rookie belong to heroes or innocents. Sometimes the loss of a villain can be equally powerful, especially when that villain has been humanized. Sandra La Fiera de la Cruz exemplifies this principle. Introduced as a dangerous cartel leader, La Fiera initially seems like a straightforward antagonist, but as the series progresses, we see different facets of her character. She's not just a criminal mastermind, she's also a mother fiercely protective of her son. She's Wesley's client, revealing a code of honor beneath her ruthless exterior. What makes La Fiera's character compelling is this duality. She commits terrible acts without hesitation, yet shows genuine affection for her child and occasional flashes of principle. Her kidnapping of Angela Lopez, pregnant with Wesley's child, represents La Fiera at her most threatening. Yet even this action is motivated by her twisted sense of justice and her own maternal instincts. La Fiera's death comes during the operation to rescue Angela. It's violent and definitive, bringing her storyline to a close. What makes this death impactful isn't sadness for the character herself, but recognition of the wasted potential. In another life, with different choices, La Fiera's intelligence and determination might have been forces for good. Some deaths in The Rookie bring not sadness, but relief, though even these can be complicated by the show's nuanced storytelling. Rosalind Dyer's death falls into this category, the end of a villain so captivating that viewers might feel conflicted about seeing her go. Introduced as a serial killer with a disturbing fascination with Lucy Chin, Rosalind quickly establishes herself as one of the show's most compelling antagonists. She's brilliant, manipulative, and utterly without remorse, using her psychological insights to torment both her victims and the officers pursuing her. What makes Rosalind unique among the show's villains is her self-awareness. She knows exactly what she is and embraces it completely. There's no tragic backstory to explain away her crimes, no moment of humanity that suggests redemption is possible. She's a monster who enjoys being monstrous, which makes her all the more terrifying. Her cat and mouse game with the LAPD, particularly with Lucy, creates some of the show's most tense and unsettling moments. Every interaction carries the threat of violence, even when Rosalind is in custody. Her words are weapons, precisely aimed to cause maximum psychological damage. When Rosalind finally dies, it's not in a blaze of glory or a dramatic standoff.
One bribe with
It's sudden and unexpected, robbing her of the spectacle she would have preferred. There's a poetic justice to this unceremonious end for someone who orchestrated elaborate deaths for others. The aftermath of Rosalind's death brings complicated emotions for Lucy and the other officers who pursued her. Rosalind's death reminds us that in the rookie's world, justice doesn't always bring closure. Sometimes the villain is vanquished but leaves scars that remain, a legacy of fear and trauma that the survivors must learn to carry. The cumulative weight. When we step back and look at all these deaths together, a pattern emerges. The rookie uses death not just for shock value or plot advancement, but as a tool for character development and thematic exploration. Each significant death in the series reveals something about the world these characters inhabit. Captain Anderson's death shows the sudden, unpredictable danger of police work. Jackson West's off-screen passing highlights how some losses come without warning or closure. What makes the rookie's approach to death particularly effective is its willingness to show the aftermath. Death isn't just a dramatic moment at the end of an episode. It's a rupture that changes everything that follows. Characters grieve, question themselves, make decisions based on their losses. This approach creates a world that feels lived in and real. The officers of Mid-Wilshire carry their losses with them. They visit graves. They name children after those they've lost. Death becomes part of the tapestry of their lives rather than an isolated incident. So, which death hit you hardest? Was it Captain Anderson's shocking poolside shooting? Jackson West's off-screen tragedy? Or perhaps one of the civilian deaths that showed the ripple effects of loss beyond the precinct? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see the saddest moments on Dexter, click here.